The Path of Discrimination. 3.9 Treatise on Insight. 1. Thus I heard. At one time the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jita's Grove, Anthopicus Park. There he addressed the bhikkhus, thus, Bhikkhus. Venerable Sir, they replied. The Blessed One said this. 2. Bhikkhus. When a bhikkhu sees any formation as permanent, it is not possible that he shall make a choice in conformity with actuality, and without making a choice in conformity with actuality, it is not possible that he shall enter upon the certainty of rightness. And without entering upon the certainty of rightness, it is not possible that he shall realize the fruit of stream entry, or the fruit of once return, or the fruit of non-return, or the fruit of arahantship. Bhikkhus. When a bhikkhu sees all formations as impermanent, it is possible that he shall make a choice in conformity with actuality. In making a choice in conformity with actuality, it is possible that he shall enter upon the certainty of rightness. And by entering upon the certainty of rightness, it is possible that he shall realize the fruit of stream entry, or the fruit of once return, or the fruit of non-return, or the fruit of arahantship. 3. Bhikkhus. When a bhikkhu sees any formation as pleasant, it is not possible that he shall make a choice in conformity, and so on as in section 2 up to or the fruit of arahantship. Bhikkhus. When a bhikkhu sees all formations as painful, it is possible that he shall make a choice in conformity, and so on as in section 2 up to or the fruit of arahantship. 4. Bhikkhus. When a bhikkhu sees any idea as self, it is not possible that he shall make a choice in conformity, and so on as in section 2 up to or the fruit of arahantship. Bhikkhus. When a bhikkhu sees all ideas as not self, it is possible that he shall make a choice in conformity, and so on as in section 2 up to or the fruit of arahantship. 5. Bhikkhus. When a bhikkhu sees nibbana as painful, it is not possible that he shall make a choice in conformity, and so on as in section 2 up to or the fruit of arahantship. Bhikkhus. When a bhikkhu sees nibbana as pleasant, it is possible that he shall make a choice in conformity, and so on as in section 2 up to or the fruit of arahantship. 6. In how many aspects does he choose in conformity with actuality? In how many aspects does he enter upon the certainty of rightness? He chooses in conformity with actuality in 40 aspects. He enters upon the certainty of rightness in 40 aspects. 7. In what 40 aspects does he choose in conformity? In what 40 aspects does he enter upon the certainty of rightness? He sees the 5 aggregates as impermanent, as painful, as a disease, a boil, a dart, a calamity, an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as a plague, a disaster, a terror, menace, as fickle, perishable, unenduring, as no protection, no shelter, no refuge, as empty, vain, void, not self, as a danger, as subject to change, as having no core, as the root of calamity, as murderous, as due to be annihilated, as subject to cankers, as formed, as Mara's bait, as connected with the idea of birth, connected with the idea of aging, connected with the idea of illness, connected with the idea of death, connected with the idea of sorrow, connected with the idea of lamentation, connected with the idea of despair, connected with the idea of defilement. 8. Seeing the 5 aggregates as impermanent, he chooses in conformity. Seeing how the cessation of the 5 aggregates is nibbana, which is permanent, he enters into the certainty of rightness. Seeing the 5 aggregates as painful, he chooses in conformity. Seeing how the cessation of the 5 aggregates is nibbana, which is pleasant, he enters upon the certainty of rightness. As a disease, which is health, as a boil, which is no boil, as a dart, which is no dart, as a calamity, which is no calamity, as an affliction, which is non-affliction, as alien, which is independence of others, as disintegrating, which is not disintegrating, as a plague, which is no plague, as a disaster, which is no disaster, as a terror, which is non-terror, as a menace, which is no menace. As fickle, which is unfickle. As perishable, which is unperishable. As unenduring, which is enduring. As no protection, which is a protection. As no shelter, which is a shelter. As no refuge, which is a refuge. As empty, which is not empty. As vain, which is not vain. As void, which is the ultimate voidness. As not self, which is the ultimate meaning, aim. As a danger, which is without danger. As subject to change, which is not subject to change. As having no core, which is the core. As the root of calamity, which is not the root of calamity. As murderous, which is not murderous. As due to be annihilated, which is not due to be annihilated. As subject to cankers, which is free from cankers. As formed, which is unformed. As Mara's materialistic bait, which is unmaterialistic. As connected with the idea of birth, which is unborn. As connected with the idea of aging, which is unaging. As connected with the idea of ailment, which is unnailing. As connected with the idea of death, which is deathless. As connected with the idea of sorrow, which is sorrowless. As connected with the idea of lamentation, which is without lamentation. As connected with the idea of despair, which is non-despair. Seeing the five aggregates as connected with the idea of defilement, he chooses in conformity with actuality. Seeing how the cessation of the five aggregates is nibbana, which is without defilement, he enters upon the certainty of rightness. 9. As impermanent is contemplation of impermanence. As painful is contemplation of pain. As a disease is contemplation of pain. As a boil is contemplation of pain. As a dart is contemplation of pain. As a calamity is contemplation of pain. As an affliction is contemplation of pain. As alien is contemplation of not self. As disintegrating is contemplation of impermanence. As a plague is contemplation of pain. As a disaster is contemplation of pain. As a terror is contemplation of pain. As a menace is contemplation of pain. As fickle is contemplation of impermanence. As perishable is contemplation of impermanence. As unenduring is contemplation of impermanence. As no protection is contemplation of pain. As no shelter is contemplation of pain. As no refuge is contemplation of pain. As empty is contemplation of not self. As vain is contemplation of not self. As void is contemplation of not self. As not self is contemplation of not self. As a danger is contemplation of pain. As subject to change is contemplation of impermanence. As having no core is contemplation of impermanence. As the root of calamity is contemplation of pain. As murderous is contemplation of pain. As due to be annihilated is contemplation of impermanence. As subject to cankers is contemplation of pain. As formed is contemplation of impermanence. As Mara's materialistic bait is contemplation of pain. As connected with the idea of birth is contemplation of pain. As connected with the idea of aging is contemplation of pain. As connected with the idea of ailment is contemplation of pain. As connected with the idea of death is contemplation of impermanence. As connected with the idea of sorrow is contemplation of pain. As connected with the idea of lamentation is contemplation of pain. As connected with the idea of despair is contemplation of pain. As connected with the idea of defilement is contemplation of pain. In these 40 aspects, he chooses in conformity with actuality. In these 40 aspects, he enters upon the certainty of rightness. 10. When he chooses in conformity with actuality, in these 40 aspects, and enters upon the certainty of rightness in these 40 aspects. How many kinds of contemplation of impermanence? How many kinds of contemplation of pain? And how many kinds of contemplation of not self does he have? 5 and 20 contemplations of not self, and 50 contemplations of impermanence. The rest, which number 125, are contemplations reckoned as of pain. End of treatise on insight.